Everything you need. Now, if you could turn your, you can get started here in about a minute, so if you can get everything cranked up, ready to go. Okay, that is done.
Hey, Larry. Thank you for the card.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, Crystal, are you with us? Crystal Shipling of Blessed Hope? Okay, I am not seeing her. Good evening. We'll call the December 6th, 2021 meeting of the Mayor and City Council of Lincoln Park to order. If everyone would please rise where you're at for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which will be immediately followed by a moment of silence as we remember the victims of the school shooting in Oxford. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you. If we could have roll call, please.
Certainly. Councilpersons Dupre?
Here.
Higgins?
Here.
Kelsey?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Salcido?
Here.
Hovind?
Here.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Here. Well, again, good evening, everyone. In talking about the tragedy that took place at Oxford High School, a very quick event, less than 5 minutes, that it all took place. I spent a lot of time as a substitute teacher at the high school, and I'm fortunate that, like in Oxford, both our middle school and our high school have an officer that is in attendance, just in case of circumstances like that. You prepare, you do everything that you can, you do your precautions, and then it still happens. I cannot imagine how badly that community must be reeling from that, with 4 being killed and 1 still in serious conditions. You don't just put that behind you. That's something that's going to scar them for the rest of the time. So I'm sure that all our prayers are with their community as they're getting through that. Just on a little bit of a side note here, that our police department has been issuing gun locks free of charge through our records department for it's at least 10-15 years, and for those of you that are gun owners, it's not something that you can take lightly. And if you haven't in the past, I mean, if you own a gun, there's a good possibility that either you're going to have maybe the possibility for an accidental shooting, or somebody could use it for a purpose other than what you wanted it to be used for. The securing of the gun locks, free of charge, again, at our records department, would make that so that it's going to be no careless use. And so it's a good program that the police department has. Tomorrow will be December 7th, of course, the day that will live in infamy. It will mark 80 years tomorrow that the attack on Pearl Harbor happened. Because, I mean, the ships are still down there. And of course, it marked our entrance basically into World War II, but 90 years, that's a long time. At our last meeting, I was negligent in that I did not let everyone know that one of our retired officers had passed. It was Sergeant Paul Cochran, better known as Rosie. Paul was just a giant of a man with a heart to match. It's probably, he had a tryout with the Cleveland Browns and everything, so he was a sizable person. But what should be noted about Paul is that he was also a minister. He was department chaplain for a little while he was still working there. But the person had just this undying, it's his, anything that he wanted to do, he was fearless. He started a recording studio and put out a couple albums. He thought that he wanted to produce a film and make a film. That he made a motion picture. So anything that he thought of, he had the courage to go out and to do it. So he would be very missed. Sergeant Paul Cochran, he had over 25 years with the police department. This just today, and then coming up on hopefully a future show, the Fantasyland, Lincoln Park Fantasyland was highlighted by the Under the Radar crew. Under the Radar is a great program that's on PBS, and it's been for several years. But there will be an upcoming segment coming out on that and highlighting Lincoln Park. That'll be very good. Let's see. This past week, I was invited to the Masonic Lodge for their awards dinner, as to watch them go through the different not rights but promotions and awards was very interesting. And they were honoring local officials at that night also. So we had the fire chief, the police chief were there. Councilman Kelsey was also there, but it was a very nice evening. The Goodfellow collection with the students was last Friday. That is still ongoing. As I said, you want no child without a Christmas. Most city buildings have drop boxes where you can bring toys and unwrapped toys if you want to make a donation, and they're always looking for cash. This coming Saturday, the 11th, there is 2 events going on. One is a dinner in honor of the BV Goodell Post 552 VFW, celebrating 90 years. 90 years in Lincoln Park. They'll be having a dinner there. Their actual 100th birthday or 90th birthday was on July 31st, though. So then earlier in the day at 1 o'clock, we have an old friend of Lincoln Park will be returning, Bill Morrison of Disney and Simpsons fame, will be coming to sign his poster at the Historical Museum at 1 o'clock. It's a print of, and it's called Made in Lincoln Park. And on this would be an original artwork from Bill that will have Preston Tucker with the Tucker automobile, Lynn Osborne, who graduated from Lincoln Park High School and was on the TV show Space Patrol, Mary Moore, who was on the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, Chuck Miller, who created the Red Baron and the Fire Truck Roadsters and the Zingers. Also will be honored on that will be the MC5. I think that Gary Grimshaw and Bill Morrison himself will be on there. So Bill will be on hand to sign these, and the beauty of that is that he has donated this artwork to the museum, and all proceeds from the sales of that go directly to benefit the Lincoln Park Historical Museum. So that is a fabulous, fabulous thing. I was also able to go to the holiday market a couple weeks ago and bought far too much. There was Afghans and gnomes and things to purchase, and my wife seemed to buy most of them. So kudos to the farmers market because they did a very nice job there. We were over at, speaking of Fantasyland, I was there on, I think that was Sunday, and filming the second of the Crossroads in Lincoln Park program. It has to do with a little bit of the history of Fantasyland and what the program looks now, with representatives from the Chamber of Commerce and the train club that's over there. So I'm looking forward to how that is going to work out. And with that, I think that I am going to leave Mayor's comments, and then we'll go to the audit presentation. So we have Plant and Moran here. I notice Kristen Hunt, who is in attendance. And, well, Kristen can introduce her team. So, Kristen?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Really appreciate the opportunity to be able to present the results of the audit to you this evening. I'm very excited to be here at the first meeting in December. That gives you a good feeling of how the audit went very well this year, and to be able to be presenting early in December instead of the last meeting towards the end of the year. We had great cooperation. Things went very well. With me tonight is James Hapola. James is the audit manager that I work with on your engagements. Before I turn it over to James to go over some highlights for you, we've put together the graph presentation that we typically go over with you that really concentrates on the highlights of those financial statements. It primarily will concentrate on the general fund, the water and sewer fund, those pension funds, and then there's some important footnote disclosures this year that we want to bring your attention to. Overall, the city did have a good year in the general fund, and that's primarily driven by the fact that there was some additional funds that you're probably aware of that came out as part of those coronavirus relief funds. You would normally, whenever you get federal grant funds, you use those for some other specific purpose. These funds allowed you to use those to pay existing public safety salaries, so that really helped the general fund this year because it took some of the burden of that off. And you'll see that as James goes through those financial statements. So you'll see that good year, and it's really allowed to get fund balance up to a more safe level of what you'd be hoping for, to be able to build up some reserves at the level that you need to be able to save for a rainy day and anticipate any kind of, if there's any unanticipated expenditures that you would have, you have a little bit better position now to be able to respond to those. So just keep that in mind as we go through those graphs. And then once James is done, we'll also go through the single audit. So you have two audits that we perform. So one is the financial statement audit, and then you also have a grant compliance. It's a federal grant compliance audit, and that's necessary because the city spends more than $750,000 in federal grants. And so once James is done with the financial statement highlights, I'll just give you some brief highlights of how that grant compliance audit went. But overall, before he gets started, you do have clean audit opinions on both of those financial statements to get things started.
Very good.
So with that, I can turn it over to James to go over that graph presentation. So
Yes, please.
Thanks, Kristen. I think I'm able to share my screen. Let me try real quick. Can everyone see my, oh, hold on here. Sorry.
There we go.
Everyone see my screen now? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, good evening. As Kristen mentioned, I'm James Hoppola, and I just wanted to run through some of the graphs that we hope will help display some of the city's financial information for this year. So this first graph here presents the past 6 years of fund balance for the general fund. During the 2021 fiscal year, total fund balance increased approximately $1.3 million. The two components of fund balance this year were restricted and unassigned fund balance. Restricted fund balance represents funds designated for a specific function. The $1.07 million were restricted for construction code costs in accordance with the state's Construction Code Act. Unassigned fund balance represents resources available to the city. The 2021 unassigned fund balance of $5.06 million is approximately 22% of total 2021 general fund expenditures, which is above the city's fund balance minimum policy. This unassigned amount should be maintained for cash flow purposes, including unanticipated expenditures, downturns in the economy, investments in capital assets, and any other irregular expenditures. This next graph presents the past 5 years of revenue for the general fund. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, total revenue increased by approximately $1.56 million from the previous year. As you can see, the city's largest source of revenue is property tax, which has remained pretty stable over the past 5 years. This year it increased roughly 6% due to increases in the city's taxable value. Intergovernmental revenue increased by approximately $1.78 million due to increases to the state shared revenue and also the CRF funding grant that Kristen mentioned earlier. That was about $1.1 million. On the previous slide, we noted that there was an increase to fund balance of $1.3 million, and so without this CRF grant of 1.1, the city would have, been $200,000 above for the year. The fines and forfeitures revenue received from the 25th District Court increased approximately $710,000 in the current year. Decreased approximately $710,000 in the current year. And the remaining components of revenue remained relatively stable compared to last year. This graph presents the past 5 years of expenditures for the general fund. There have been no significant changes to the total cost structure of the city's general fund. As you can see, total expenditures have remained relatively consistent over the past 5 years, both in total and by each component. For the current year, there were a few overages when compared to the budgeted expenditures, but for the most part, no department expenditures were significantly over budget, which means that the department heads are operating as approved by City Council. This chart here presents the city's pension information for the past 4 years. As you can note from the slide, the MERS plan increased its funding percentage from 21.2% to 22.7% during the current year. The police officers and firefighters retirement plan increased from 33.5% to 43.4%. A large portion of that increase in the public safety's plan was due to net investment income being roughly $7 million for the year. The funding of these pensions will remain a significant piece of the overall expenditures of the general fund for many more years. Moving over to the water and sewer fund, this graph displays the water and sewer's operating revenue, which is that blue line, compared to its operating expenses, the red line, and also operating expenses excluding depreciation, which is that gold line. As you can see, the city is in an operating loss position until you exclude the depreciation expense, which is a non-cash item. But as far as the numbers are reported in the financial statements, the city had an operating loss of $141,000. And after adding in non-operating items, a total change in net position was a negative $302,000 for the water and sewer fund. This graph represents the water and sewer fund's current assets, current liabilities, and cash operating expenses, which excludes depreciation. The difference between the current assets and the current liabilities is the working capital available to the city. Working capital represents the water and sewer fund's ability to pay current obligations or any emergencies that might pop up. The $573,000 or $503,000 of working capital makes up approximately 6.5% of the year's cash operating expenses. However, as you can note, a large portion of this is tied up in accounts receivable. Additionally, there are no other reserves for investments in capital assets or emergencies in the water and sewer fund. The city's water loss for the year remained relatively high at 36%, but that amount was consistent with the past few years. As a part of the annual rate setting, we would encourage the city to set rates that will help them build this working capital balance up. And then we just have an extra slide here that wouldn't have been presented in past years, and that was due to a proposed class action lawsuit against the city. This was related to basement flooding in the city over the period from April 30th to May 1st, 2019, and that was filed in the Wayne County Circuit Court. There's a potential here of up to 800 homes. The city is a defendant, along with Wayne County, the Wayne County Drain Commissioner, and a couple drain districts. Because of the flooding has yet to be determined, which will affect who, if any, is responsible for damages. At this stage, it's a relatively new case, and so no opinion can be given whether there's a probable outcome of a loss or even really a reasonable estimate can be made. So in the financial statements, no numbers are affected by this yet, but we do have a disclosure just to keep the users of the financial statements aware that there is a proposed lawsuit against the city. With that, if there are any questions on the financial statement side of things, we can take them now. Otherwise, we can move back to Kristen for the single audit report.
I've got a.
Yes, go ahead.
To the chair, I've got a question. I don't know if it's appropriate for you or for Kristen. Recently, we've had some discussion with the court on their budget and their audits and so on and so forth. Where is that item in our city budget? In other words, do you audit what the court, I guess, we pay them, they pay us, and yada, yada, yada. Is that showing up in anywhere in our financials when you audit it? Do you look at that, or that's not really part of it? I guess that's my question.
Right. Yes, so I can help with that. Yes, so James, if you could pull back, if you could go to the revenue slide first.
Oh, I see it.
So this will, that fines and forfeitures row, that will show you really what the receipts are for the court. But really, that's really what those cash receipts are that they send to you. Their audit would involve determining whether those amounts are correct that they are collecting, but that involves some testing that we would do to vouch those, samples of those to supporting documentation. And then in the next, so that's the receipts. And then if you look at this next slide that talks about the expenses for the district court. So those expenses represent the city's portion of the expenses for the court, because remember you share that with two other cities, and with Ecorse and River Rouge. And so this represents the city of Lincoln Park's percentage of the payroll costs and also for the non-payroll. So there's a monthly allowance, if you will, that you send to the court for them to pay their non-payroll expenses, and so that's what that would represent, plus the payroll expenses that the city finance director here expends.
But you don't do any. The court does their own audit, their own budget. Am I correct? You don't really. All you look is at the money comes in to make sure that it's incorporated in our budget and it's X amount of money and so on and so forth. Now,
correct.
The other question I got is, what about the fact that the court now has instituted a medical retiree program for their employees? that doesn't really impact us, am I correct? In other words, we don't have to list that as a liability underneath our title, so to speak, because we don't really manage that, but yet we pay money into the, I guess I'm asking from an auditor's sense, not really from a, but is
Right.
that, do we have to declare that, or we don't really, that's not really ours?
So right.
Liability.
That would be the court's liability. When
Okay.
there was that first liability, or when the court was first formed there for the three city courts,
Yeah.
there was language in that court agreement about what would happen with the legacy employees that were involved in that, and what would happen with their pension and healthcare liabilities. And so those legacy benefits remain on the books of the cities for those, but this new plan that
Right.
that I've heard that they have is not reflected on the city's plan, because that'd be the court's liability.
Okay, so we didn't have to account for it in our, like you say, where we account for our legacy costs because we have a
Right.
because the court changed, and that's, you answered my question. I was kind of complicated. I'm fine with it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would show up in the city's financial statements ultimately for if you provide funding for them,
Right.
to be able to pay that, so it would be
Yeah, it's kind of
reflected
complicated.
that way.
You can answer, as long as it doesn't show up in your audit, that's what I was concerned about. Okay, all right.
Right.
Thank you. I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, sir, anything from anyone else? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, Kristen, so go ahead.
I know that was a lot of information to go through,
Yeah.
boiling down those financial statements to the most important, but if I could just summarize James's comments, like he mentioned, like this year was a good year to add to fund balance, and so you wouldn't have been able to do that without the coronavirus relief funds that you were provided, and so those really helped. And as he mentioned, you're above your minimum fund balance policy, which is just at 20%, and that's the recommended level that all of the accounting organizations would generally recommend for a city, is to have 20% of 1 year's expenditures in your reserve. So I think of that as like you having this one-time really opportunity this year with those extra grant funds to be able to build that up to that reserve. And so just keeping an eye on that and be able to do what you can in the coming years to be able to preserve that, to keep that at that 20% level. And then continuing to keep your eyes on the water and sewer rates. I know you've been increasing those. As James mentioned, you've got opportunity there where you're increasing some of the rates there to build reserves, but the water loss still remains high at 36 or 37%. And so while you're getting enough coming in to really operate the system, what the real need is to keep your eye on those rates is so that you can make those necessary improvements that you're really going to need to make in the system overall. And really that's showing up each year with a little bit higher water loss, is because it's hard to keep up with the capital improvements that you need to reduce the water loss. And so a lot of times when we work with other communities, sometimes townships and places that are newer communities, you'll see much less water loss for them because their systems are just, not as mature as yours, and those pipes are newer, and so they're not having that loss. So overall, that's why I said it's good news to have this for this year, but it might just be this year, and depending on how much extra the additional funds that come out that you'll have. And sometimes those newer funds can be for specific things, like the infrastructure and things that you need to do, not paying for current expenses. So, but overall, it's a good way to end the year to have that to look into, going into next calendar year, and knowing that you've got some funds there in the bank. I did mention that in addition to doing the financial statement audit, we also do the single audit. And so this year, the city spent about $2.7 million in federal grant funds. The largest portions of that were the coronavirus relief funds. Those were $1.1 million. And then also the CDBG funds that were about $1.2 million. And then around $225,000 would have been the some EPA funds that were provided to do some capital improvements there in the water and sewer. But those amounts are actually loans, but they're provided to a federal grant or a federal funding source. Related to those audits, for the program that we tested, the major program that we did those compliance tests on, was on that new grant, the Coronavirus Relief Fund. We did have one internal, we had no non-compliance findings related to that grant, but we had one internal control matter, and it related to filing some new reports on time. So just keeping an eye on that to make sure that those reports are filed by the due date. Federal grant funds are something where dates are very important. They're called compliant, so that's why you have to make sure that you get those filed. And sometimes even just a week late can cause a reason to have that noted. And then I have to mention to you, we did help prepare some of the year-end journal entries to be able to have the financial statements be in accordance with GAAP. They didn't relate to the day-to-day operations or budgets of the city, but some of the information that we need to have these comprehensive GAAP financial statements, we assisted with those. And then lastly, we did have one internal control recommendation that we think would be a best practice to help strengthen your internal controls, and that relates to granting of access of user rights within your financial software. In an ideal control environment, it would be nice to have somebody outside of the accounting department have that the ability to control access to keep a little bit better segregation of duties. So we recommend that, as you go through this year, if there's an opportunity to move that into another department, that would help strengthen controls in that manner. But that's all we had, unless anybody has any questions. James and I are both happy to answer any.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
yes, is there a possibility I can, or the council can get a hard copy of your report? Because I'm on a 4-inch screen and my TV is 30 feet away. I really couldn't see toll, but it'd be nice to have it in my hands. But
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Just, I guess I got a question if nobody else.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what would you consider, when you said the outside control for the access to the account, what would you, I mean, we got X amount of departments, you don't have a lot of them, so what would you, is there a recommendation, or is there something that you see, because you've been in the city as a corporation for many, many, many years, so what would you suggest, or have you suggested the manager, what would be a good department to maybe oversee that access, I guess, kind of like.
Yes. So if I could say, this is one of a very common controlled or audit matter, that a recommendation that we make because of the reasons for what you said. There are usually limited resources within government, and being able to ideally have segregation of duties like you might in a for-profit company can be a challenge. And so usually in practice, it seems like the IT function ends up residing with finance. It just kind of usually falls into that based on. But if there is an opportunity to be able to change that access and pull that just outside of those individuals that are in the system making accounting journal entries and paying bills and writing, reconciling the bank account. So in some instances, I've seen that be transferred to an HR department. If there's an HR person, it's still appropriate for accounting to say, here's who should have access and this is the type, but just having a separate person outside of having those abilities be the one that actually changes it, just improves your control. So I'd say if it could be performed that way, perhaps if there's resources to move that into city manager's office, if there's maybe an administrative person in there that could have that, that would help alleviate that internal control matter.
I appreciate it. I was just curious because, like I said, there's people are doing 2 or 3 jobs now, and it's just the way it is in the public sector right now.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard to have accountability, but still be within the wheelhouse so you don't disrupt the operations as it goes on day to day. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay. And I guess last, if I may, through the chair, my last question is: there has been some deficits, I think you mentioned, for the water and sewer fund and from the court so far this quarter or this last part. The rest of the departments, I think you mentioned, were basically almost within their budget, or their budgeted money that you gave to them. So that's a fair assessment to say that that's the only 2 that really is kind of deficit, I guess, lack of a better word.
Right, none of the funds ended up this year with negative fund balance.
Okay,
So if that happens, you do have to provide a deficit and elimination plan to the state. So none of the funds ended the year with a negative fund balance. Water and sewer fund did have an overall loss where they lost about $300,000 this year, but their ending balance is still positive because so much of the water and sewer funds assets really relate to the infrastructure, the fixed assets that go along with all that. So there's still, at the end of the day, there's still $25 million of net assets for the water and sewer fund. It's just not a lot of it is liquid. It's related to those capital assets.
okay, thank you. Thank you for explaining that, both those items, or all three of those items, thank you.
No, good information.
My pleasure.
Anyone else for the auditors? All right. Kristen, James, thank you so much. We appreciate that. I know that a lot of hard work goes into that, getting all the details right, and we're appreciative of your efforts, so thank you.
Thank you very much. It's
Thank
our
you.
pleasure.
Okay, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Resolved that the following items listed under the consent agenda be approved as presented to the mayor and city council. 1, approved minutes, regular meeting held November 15, 2021. 2, approved minutes, study session, REDPS, held November 15, 2021. 3, set public hearing, CDBG budget. 4, approved training, staff and command school. 5, approved training, firearms instructor course.
So move. Support.
Okay. Then clerk call the roll.
Councilpersons Higgins,
Yes.
Tobin,
Yes.
Dupre,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes,
Ross,
Yes.
Salcido,
Yes.
and Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Okay, moving to the action items. First item has a cover letter from our city manager, James Grzan. City, in background, the city's master plan is defined by the Planning Enabling Act as intended to guide development within the city. To enforce the city's master plan, a zoning ordinance needs to be consistent with the goals of the plan. In November 2019, the city approved significant amendments to the master plan. The city's current zoning ordinance was first adopted in 1998. While it had some modifications through the years, it is time for a rewrite. This will allow for consistency with master plan as well as implementation of best practices regarding administration of the ordinance. Due to the November Planning Commission meeting, the request for proposal was considered by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission recommends that the approval of solicitation for zoning ordinance consultant by way of the following resolution. And this was from the Planning Commission, recommending the approval to the LP City Council for the issuance of a request for proposal for zoning ordinance rewrite, moved by Persinger, supported by Dupre, and that motion was approved. The project is one that was presented as part of the Revenue Replacement Program for the American Rescue Plan Act. So, whereas the city adopted amendments to the city's master plan in November of 2019, whereas the city desires a zoning ordinance to implement the master plan. Be it resolved, the mayor and city council authorize the city to solicit proposals for a consultant to draft a new zoning ordinance.
So move.
Support.
Discussion? Okay, clerk call the roll.
Councilpersons Higgins,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Dupre, Kelsey,
yes,
Salcido,
Yes.
Tobin,
Yes.
and Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Next item also has a cover letter from our city manager. In background, the city's agreement with Beckett and Rader for as-needed planning services is set to expire at the end of this year. In anticipation of this, Beckett and Rader was asked to provide a proposal for a one-year extension. Proposal holds the consulting fees to the previous rates. In the coming year, there will be some anticipated personnel changes due to pending retirements, which will afford the city an opportunity to assess some restructuring possibilities regarding planning and community development. The as-needed contract allows for flexibility as we look to this transition period. So, whereas the city requires the services of a certified planner, whereas the city has received a proposal from Beckett and Rader to extend the current contract for planning services for another year, be resolved that the mayor and city council approve of the extension with Beckett and Rader for as-needed planning services. Be it further resolved, the mayor is authorized to execute the agreement.
I'll move with the question.
Support.
Go ahead, sir.
Nowhere on here it says cost. Are we going to be charging the same thing? Is the car price going up? What?
It's the same rate as the previous year. Any further discussion?
Through the chair, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
In this comment, in the coming year, there are some anticipated personnel changes due to pending retirement. So is that in Lincoln Park or is that through Beckett and Rader that's going to be retiring?
I believe that it's in the Lincoln Park personnel.
Okay, so there are other certified planners out there that we could solicit for bids out of curiosity?
Well, when I mention restructuring, I'm thinking potentially of looking at trying to bring that service to an in-house model.
All right. All right, no further questions at this time.
Okay. Further discussion? Can clerk call the roll?
Councilpersons Higgins,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Dupre,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes.
Salcido,
Yes.
Tobin,
Yes.
and Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Our next item has a cover letter from our city clerk, Carrie Kerr. Purpose of this resolution is a firmly scheduled study session regarding the Southfield Road Corridor Study. This is the joint meeting with ECORS and our respective planning commissions that the DDA director and the planning consultant have already invited you to attend. So resolved that a study session of the mayor and council of the cities of Lincoln Park and ECORS, along with their planning commissions, will be held on Monday, December 13, 2021 at 6 p.m. The cities of Lincoln Park and ECORS are jointly conducting a corridor study of Southfield Road from the western border of Lincoln Park to the Detroit River. The purpose of the plan is to increase consistency of the built environment along the corridor to improve economic return to facilitate non-motorized access to its business and recreation assets. Be it further resolved that in accordance with Public Act 254 of 2020 and Wayne County's emergency order, this meeting is being conducted remotely using Zoom. This action is intended to facilitate necessary city business without unduly compromising public health, safety, and welfare. Attendees may participate in the meeting using Zoom either online or by phone.
So move.
Support.
Okay, discussion? Okay, clerk call the roll?
Councilpersons Higgins,
Yes.
Tobin,
Yes.
Dupre,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Salcido,
Yes.
and Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Next item has a cover letter from Carl Malish, our DDA director. In background, as several of you already know, the staff of the Lincoln Park Downtown Development Authority, DDA, applied for and received financial commitment and technical support from the National Fitness Campaign, NFC, to purchase, install, and operate an outdoor fitness court to be located at the southwest corner of Euclid and 4th Street. This site is currently private-owned, but negotiations are underway to implement at an arm's-length purchase. In parentheses, the approved backup site for the outdoor fitness court is Mellis Park, a property already owned by the city/DDA. The Lincoln Park DDA authorized its staff to proceed with the purchase of the outdoor fitness court equipment package, which is currently priced at $136,865. The NFC's current contribution to the equipment package is $30,000. Pending the City Council's approval of this project via resolution, the DDA staff submit a down payment of $50,000 to the NFC and receive the equipment package on or below before December 10th, 2021. The DDA will implement this project during the second quarter of 2022. And budget impact, the total cost of the NFC Outdoor Fitness Court project will cost $161,865 to $201,865 depending upon acquisition of the property. In addition, $30,000 already spent committed by the NFC, and additional funding partner will likely provide another $20,000 project. All right, we'll come to the resolution here. Whereas the City of Lincoln Park, through the Lincoln Park Downtown Development Authority, has submitted a grant application to the National Fitness Campaign, NFC, for participation in their 2021 initiative to install and activate outdoor fitness courts in 200 cities and schools across the country. Whereas the City of Lincoln Park, through the Lincoln Park Downtown Development Authority, will accept a $30,000 national grant from our NFC Grant Committee and statewide partners and provide a local match in the amount of $106,865 to promote and implement a free-to-the-public outdoor fitness court. And whereas the City of Lincoln Park, through the Lincoln Park Downtown Development Authority, will secure supplemental funding as needed through community sponsors, which will be made available and committed to this program for the purchase of the outdoor fitness court. And whereas the City of Lincoln Park, through the Lincoln Park Downtown Development Authority, will commit to construction and launch of the outdoor fitness court by the end of the 2022 calendar year. Now, whereas the City of Lincoln Park City Council believes the outdoor fitness court is an important wellness ecosystem that supports healthier communities, commits to fundraising to participate in NFC's 2021 campaign, and will earn local and national recognition as a leader in providing affordable health and wellness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Lincoln Park City Council will collaborate with NFC to implement the outdoor fitness courts and make fitness free to community residents and visitors.
So moved.
Or,
Okay, do we have discussion?
Chair,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
so is it my understanding that it's going to cost the city the down payment of the $50,000 through the DDA and then an additional $30,000? And the rest will be matching funds?
We have Carl Malish.
Yeah, okay, excuse me. The resolution indicates that our share is going to be approximately $106,000 and change. We have received the $30,000 commitment. There's another organization called, that commitment is actually through Priority Healthcare. We have another opportunity that NFC people are telling us we'll be able to get from Total Healthcare. That's another healthcare organization in the state of Michigan. We will have to apply, and I'm working on that as we speak practically, to some other funding agencies to get the balance of the funds. I'm working on an application right now that'll be submitted to the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan. Their application is going to be submitted and request $50,000. There is also conversations that I've had directly with the Economic Development Corporation of Wayne County for funding. This has also been a conversation with our county commissioner, Ilona Varga, and she's stumping on our behalf with Wayne County. There's also a couple other funding opportunities that are available. I feel very confident that we'll be able to raise the funds for this project. The slack in it is money to purchase that real estate. Our priority site, and this is also underscored by the National Fitness Campaign, is that property at Euclid and 4th Street, which is where we would like to place the fitness court. We do have a backup. If we came up short with funding, then we could place the fitness court at Mellis Park. But we have some other things that we want to do at Mellis Park, and we don't want to crowd that site out. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Bottom line is, do we have all the money together right now? No, we do not. But it's important for us to demonstrate our financial commitment locally, as well as financial commitment that we pick up along the way, so that we can get this project implemented.
Carl, the city itself has no obligation, though, correct?
The city per se does not. That's correct.
That was my question.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that we also brought this to the Parks and Recreation Commission. I believe Jason Bear is a member, is he not? He seems to be on the screen here. But of course, Doreen Christian is here. But the Parks and Recreation Commission had a special meeting last Monday, and it was a workshop and then followed by a special meeting, and they have adopted and endorsed the project, and that is going to accompany our applications to the other funding sources, as well as the council's resolution that we're asking you to pass. So we're trying to get loaded for bear, as it were, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of doing that.
Okay, questions from council?
I got a question through the chair, if I may.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I guess a question and a comment, Your Honor. We already gave $126,000 toward this, right, Carl? Out of the American redevelopment thing. I'm pretty sure you came to us and didn't we give you $126,000 out of that?
Okay, we did make a request and a proposal for $125,000 for placemaking.
Yeah.
That is also a possible source of funds, but I think we'll be able to get the funding from some other sources so that we can use that placemaking money for some other things, like the improvements that we want to make at Mellis Park, so we can bring our farmers market there. Okay, and then there's a couple other sites that we're working on, but we prefer not to use that 125 for that project. We're looking at, as I said before, about a half a dozen projects of the placemaking variety in the downtown. And so we want to be able to hold those funds for other activities, like helping businesses create outdoor dining spaces and the like.
My other question is the space you're talking about. Are you going to have a cover over it? It's going to be open to the elements? Is there going to be a fence around it? And who's going to take care of it to go in there? I mean, because things happen and people do things. Who's going to maintain it or to walk around, make sure that everything's kind of good? I mean,
right. It's going to be, okay, first of all, it's going to be an open air facility.
Okay.
So if it rains, if you want to exercise in the rain, that's fine. In the snow, that's fine. But it's not going to be covered. Second, this will be a facility that will be owned, managed, and operated by the Downtown Development Authority. And we had the same conversation with the Parks Commission, and I think Jason could verify that we gave him the same message, that it's a DDA project, although we want to collaborate with the Parks Commission and make this readily available to the community. I might add one other thing. We were very interested in this site because it happens to be located in a qualified census tract from a HUD standpoint. It's very impacted and has lots of people that are poverty stricken and also low moderate income by economic situation. So it's really a good idea to get these type of free activity facilities near the population that can most utilize the facilities for those economic reasons.
I would just, and I don't have any problem with you trying to improve the area, Carl. That's not where I'm going. My concern is that to be successful, and I can't see where that's a good use for the help of low to moderate income. And that's my opinion. And the other thing is, it out in the open, and being the fact that it's in an area where people could damage it, and there's no real and it's not covered, doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, and I'll end my conversation with that, but you answered all my questions, Carl.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I don't think it's good use of money to be for that in that area, because of what I said. And the other thing is that the DDA doesn't have any workers anymore. So I don't know who you're gonna get to watch that or take care of that, but that's the DDA's issue. But I'm just asking a question because it doesn't fix itself. You know, when something happens, somebody's gotta get to the garbage, somebody's gotta go down there and make sure. And that's why I was asking, and you answered all my questions.
Yeah, I understand that potential reluctance, but I will tell you, if we don't make some investments and energize what's going on, then we'll always have that never-ending story. You know, we want to get activities on the corridors. You know, we want more than just people that are obnoxious that might, you know, destroy property to visit our downtown. So, you know, yeah, we're making investments. We're pledging to keep them maintained, and I think the outcomes are going to be positive.
Okay. Good luck is all I can say, and I'm not. You answered my question. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, was that Councilwoman Ross? Is that,
Yeah, if I
Go ahead.
could just make a quick comment. It sounds like the grant money is specific, right, to this fitness, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, as far as putting the money to use, you have to use it for fitness. So, and I think it's a great objective. It's thinking out of the box. That's all I have, Your Honor.
okay. And anything else from council?
Just through the chair, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, I'm actually in favor of this idea. It's actually well known in the United States and other states has these outdoor fitness centers. The only concern I would have as far as safety for residents is if we could install cameras and have signs of this is under surveillance lit, that could deter some of the concerns that I think I'm hearing. But I believe this will be good for the downtown area. Hopefully it can expand more. So
Yeah.
the only concern I have, like I said, is we could have surveillance cameras somehow installed. I know there was a group that gave us a discount on cameras. So Carl, if you could work some magic on that, that would make this come together.
Yeah, you know, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. Our idea, our plan is to have lighting out there so that, you know, it's well lit. Second, cameras make perfect sense. And third, I want to emphasize this. We are going to make it accessible and useful by persons that might have disabilities. And that's, you know, that's one of the angles that we're taking, and really in response to suggestions that Jason Bear made. And also one of the grantor agencies that we're contemplating submitting an application to by the end of this week, in fact, they expect that if they get involved in projects, that they are accessible to all citizens.
Okay.
To the chair,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I just want to say as liaison to the DDA, I've known about this project for some time and was given information about it in other areas where I could go and look and see some of these projects that have gone on. And they have truly helped the neighborhoods I have seen where they're lit up, and they have helped not only bring people together and give them areas where people are showing up and where we could get bodies downtown. And it also is a deterrent from some of the no-gooders, yeah, I guess that's a good word I could use, from keeping them away because they don't want to be someplace where the light's on them and where they can be seen. So I think this is a definitely good project to do on a number of reasons.
Okay, sir, anything else from council? All right, any further discussion? Then clerk call the roll.
Councilpersons Higgins,
Yes.
Tobin,
Yes.
Dupre,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Salcido,
Yes.
and Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Next item that we have has a cover letter from John Kazoo, our Director of Department of DPS, Department of Public Services, rather. There you go. In background, the Department of Public Services is looking to purchase a water submersible leak noise correlator leak detector, along with radio noise logger starter kit and software for the water department. The department has utilized this equipment in previous demonstration. During the demonstration, 2 previous unknown leaks were detected. One has already been repaired and the other is in progress. With regular use, the equipment will greatly assist in locating water leaks and help decrease the city's water loss. We're asking that the bid process be waived, as this company is the sole source provider of submersible leak detectors. So be it resolved that the mayor and city council hereby grants authorization to waive the bid process and purchase a leak noise correlator / leak detector and radio noise logger starter kit with software from Utility Technologies LLC, the sole source provider, for a total cost not to exceed $30,000. Okay, I'm reading $30,326. Funds to come from water / sewer capital improvement account 410-001-983000.
Support.
So what's, John, what is the total cost here? I have a couple too many zeros here, I think.
Actually, it should be $30,326 even.
Okay, very good. So let that, is that good with the mover and supporter?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go in for discussion. And as we were doing this, we've been meeting twice now in reference to the 36% water loss that was highlighted by our auditors a little bit earlier, and looking for ways to find out where the water loss is going and to get it back under control. And one of the things that were suggested was this item here that has been proved useful in other communities. And it has been proven useful by our own DPS in their dry runs with it. Further discussion?
To the chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I really don't know how this works, but the question I have is this: a piece of equipment is fairly expensive, and the software is expensive. Now, it just seems to me that a piece of equipment like that, if it needs this software to be run, shouldn't that be in the package already, instead of this large sum to have to pay to make the equipment you've just bought work? Can John maybe explain to me, is there any other functions this thing does? Or can it work without this program? Or do we?
No, if I could, it cannot. This is the way this company packaged the package. This is the price tag that they package it at. It's my belief, as was said earlier, we did we found 2 locations where we believed we had some water leaks or water main breaks. The first one we corrected, it was a break, and this equipment was within 3 feet. The second one that was said earlier that we were in process of trying to repair, we did that last Thursday. What we found was we had a split in the side of the main. The water never rose to the surface where we would recognize it. It was actually going into our sanitary system. And with that 8-inch split, with the consultant that from Hennessy that has been helping us with this, his calculations, depending on how long, and he made an assumption that this break was maybe there for a year as an assumption. And with that being said, he calculated that this break was probably worth $100,000 water loss. And if that speculation is correct, that greatly outweighs the money that's going to be spent. And what we found with our own crews, the ability to use this.
John, I have, and Councilwoman Tobin, I'll get right back to you, but there is one instance where it's been said that we have water lines that go into the creek. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And other than digging that this could be useful in narrowing down that, because other than going and doing soundings and physically checking the pipe, you have no other way of doing that.
Well, let me back up and just to add on to what you just said. Yes, where the water mains go underneath the creek, it'll make it a lot easier because a lot of those main breaks, because of the depths of the creeks with the higher water elevations, we may never see them. We may never see them at all. The second thing is, even with the water mains that are underneath the ground, depending on if they go into this, if they are ruptured, they may go into the storm system. We may never see them. They may never surface. Same thing with the sanitary system. The only way we can locate these at present are when they surface at either the police department or the citizens call in saying that they see a water main break out on the surface of the roadway or their lawn. This is helping us to locate this stuff unforeseen. I think it's a very valuable tool.
But the data or the software system that they have make it user-friendly? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, all right, Councilwoman Tobin, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you. Is there a depth limit that this equipment can't reach? Is there something like where we might have a big leak that this would not be able to detect it?
In talking to the rep and the owner of the company, he said our deepest water main, to my knowledge, is 17 feet. And he says it has approximately a 23-foot depth range.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Through the chair, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
First off, obviously this is way long overdue. We probably should have had this in place years ago. But anyway, if the ground is frozen, Mr. Kazoo, what's the best time of year? Like I said, if the ground's froze, will this detect? And also, I do notice that they do offer training to the employees. So my question is, can this be used in the wintertime if the ground is froze? Or is also a way, does a contractor do this type of work? Where you could contract this work out? Would that be beneficial?
This city has contracted, well, let me back up. This type of technology is very, very new and very, very young. In the past, I'm aware of that the city has hired 2 other leak detection companies. And it was basically through a sounding where they're physically listening through megaphones for what they believe are ruptures in the pipe. Both of those companies, when they located these breaks, the water department went out and corrected them or fixed them. These, with this newer technology for the radios being right onto the pipe, it makes it so much better and so much easier. And during the demonstration, our staff is the one that located both of these leaks. And we've dug both of them up and they have been corrected. What we're hoping to do is run this year round. The question was brought up because we have water mains that go underneath some bigger roadways such as Southfield Road, Dix, and 4th Street. Does a cross-sectional thickness affect the usage of this equipment? The answer was no. The second item was, and just think about this, usually with traffic during the winter, heavier traffic will drive frost into the ground deeper. So now if you have, let's use 4th Street as an example, a greater thickness of frost plus a cross-sectional thickness of the roadway, is this going to hamper or detour this equipment from locating these water main breaks? And again, they said no, it will not.
All right, John, good job. I like this idea. What about the warranty on it?
It comes with a 2-year warranty. Because Councilwoman Ross did ask that same question earlier.
Gotcha, thank you very much.
Through the
Okay.
chair.
Yes, go ahead.
John, I love this idea, and you said we're gonna use this year round. I guess my question is what is the plan? Do we have staff to use this and remedy our water loss issue?
In talking to our consultant, his recommendation and also the supplier of this product, his recommendation is put somebody would take a vested interest in trying to locate these problems. So I've talked to the city manager, and it's my opinion that we should dedicate one person to be in charge of this equipment and just make it their job year-round to locate these problems.
Perfect.
And then what he would do is then let the supervisor know, you've got a water main break at this location, or at this one, or at this one, but keep him ahead of the water department. That's going to be my recommendation to the city manager and the finance director on trying to utilize this equipment.
Absolutely. We have it, we might as well use it.
Okay, we have further discussion? Then clerk call the roll.
Councilpersons Dupre,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes.
Salcido,
Yes.
Hovind,
Yes.
and Mayor Cons.
Yes. Next item has a cover letter from John Gazoo also, our DPS director. In background, the city of Lincoln Park and Lim Walker's Tree and Snow wish to enter into this property lease agreement to lease a portion of the DPS rear lot for storage of tree service equipment and product. And that be it resolved that Mayor and City Council hereby approves the property lease agreement by and between the City of Lincoln Park and Lim Walker's Tree and Snow for a period of 1 year pursuant to the terms of said agreement, with an option to renew for the same terms for an additional year upon mutual consent by both parties. This agreement is for a portion of the Lincoln Park DPS rear lot at 500 Southfield Road. Be it further resolved, the mayor and city clerk are authorized to sign the property lease agreement on behalf of the city of Lincoln Park.
Report.
John, I have the question on this. I was at the animal shelter 3 or 4 weeks back, and there appeared to be a lot of wood still in there from, I would imagine, the previous contractor. Does our agreement make them responsible for cleaning that out before they take ownership, or we need to have, I guess I'm looking for something to make sure that we're not stuck with tremendous amount of wood left behind at the end of this agreement here. Is there anything to prevent that in the agreement?
Presently, when the city switched from the previous tree company to the present tree company, the previous tree company did remove all of their product from our yard. And Lim Walker was kind of given an agreement that temporarily they could put product back there.
Okay.
And after that, we agreed upon a price. So now we're in the process of putting together this agreement. But the answer is yes. They would have to remove all of their product and their equipment prior to being able to leave the city's lot.
Okay. That was my question. Further discussion?
Yes, through the chair, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I've been here for a few months, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not also mistaken, I've seen their equipment in the lot. So are we gonna backdate this lease to when they first started storing their vehicles there? Or am I wrong in my assumption that they haven't been having their equipment there?
Well, John, do you have?
They were here, but this is November, they're going back to November, but I want to say in August and September, I saw their vehicles in the yard, so that was a free pass?
Yeah, that very well may be the case. I don't think we can charge them without an agreement, but John, you want to comment on that?
In other words, why wasn't this in the contract when they signed it? That's my last question.
Okay, John?
John froze up.
James, do you have anything on that then?
Yeah, I don't believe there was any kind of agreement ahead. I think they were just given permission from the DPS director to store some stuff, and then they worked out this agreement a little bit later.
That's all, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All
Madam
right,
Chair?
I was looking for John to come back. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So it says that in this contract that they're going to make sure that, only limb walkers has access, that they won't be using third parties. Who's going to make sure that that happens? I mean, with the situations with the keys down there and us just finding out at last council meeting that limb walkers was giving keys out to a second party. Now they're saying they're not going to give it out to a third party. Does that mean the second party is still going to have access to our yard? And have we found out who the second party is and have any information on them at this point? Has any of that been done?
I'll have to, James, go for you for comment on that, since John isn't on the...
Okay, I was kind of having trouble following a little bit on the question. I believe, as far as I'm really aware, the access cards right now, Limb Walkers has a certain amount. You kept kind of going back and forth between a second and third party. If you could clarify.
I can explain it better. So at the last council meeting, we found out that Limb Walkers was giving the access cards to another party that we had no knowledge of. And in this contract, I believe it states a third party that won't be having access. Does that mean the second party that we were referring to at the last council session will still have access to our yard? And if that is the case, have we found out who this party is? Do we have names of them or anything to secure our yard?
Okay, I see what you're saying. I don't believe that Limb Walkers had given the access to an additional group. I think the DPS had created a key for them and given them access. But as far as anything else, I'll have to follow up on that. I don't have any answers offhand.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have further discussion? Hearing none. Call the roll.
Councilpersons Ross,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Dupre,
Yes.
Kelsey,
Yes.
Salcido,
Yes.
Hovind,
No.
and Mayor Carts.
Yes. Okay, then, moving on. We have accounts and claims payable. There are one check that was issued ahead due to the due date. That would be the Blue Cross and Blue Shield item. Resolved that accounts and claims payable for those items greater than $25,000 be approved as follows. Blue Cross, Blue Shield, December 2021 retiree med advanced plans, retirees and active, $193,633.65. Downriver Community Conference 2021-2022 DCC Police, Fire and Drano, November 2021 senior bus driver, $44,909.77. GV Cement 2021 Concrete Reconstruction Program Number 11, $227,313. Hennessy Engineers and General Consulting, Emergency Repairs 2021 Water Loss Leak Study, Water Distribution Operation, North Shore Drive Sewer Repair, River Drive Recon, Ford Boulevard East 2021 SRF sewer rehab, Lafayette water main relocate, 2021 intersect concrete, 2021 sanitary sewer lining, 2021 concrete sectioning program, 2021 utility pavement repair, 2021 concrete recon, 2021 asphalt resurfacing, lead service, joint and crack sealing, $55,107.22. Limb walkers, tree services, trim and removal, $39,510. McKenna Associates, October 2021 Building Department Services, permits, project number 21762, $68,709.61. MERS, November 2021 defined benefit, $246,096.97. City of Wyandotte, July to September 2021 downriver dispatch quarterly payment, $70,910.83. I'll move on this.
Support.
Okay, discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry, I missed the mover on that.
Well, I started to,
Oh, okay. I apologize.
that's fine.
Mayor Carnes?
Yes.
Councilpersons Higgins?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Tobin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we've reached the time for the city manager's report. Mr. Krazan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I've got a nice little list here of things that have been going on. I guess that's what happens when we have a couple weeks in between meetings. So this Saturday, this past Saturday, we had a crew of DPS workers go out and do some alley cleanup. They were able to, during that time, take care of 5 of the problem alleys we've been working on. We have significant more to do, but it's definitely a start, and we're getting through. So I saw some of the pictures, and the alleys from what they looked like before to now, they looked fantastic. Quick update, the janitorial bid is supposed to come due this Wednesday. We did walkthroughs last week with a couple contractors. We've got a good list of, I think near 8 people, 8 different companies that have done the walkthrough, so we're hoping to get some really good bids. Though at the moment, the previous contractors, basically, when they lost the contract, they had some difficulty with staffing, and so they can't staff the building, so they've essentially informed me we need to find different arrangements for the next few weeks. And so we're going to be doing that. We've been looking at figuring out ways to take care of things. For the most part, we've been handling some of the little stuff ourselves, but we're going to be at a point we need some additional help over the next couple weeks. But honestly, that's what the performance bond of the contract's for, so we'll have to use some of that, unfortunately. Tonight you guys approved the study session for the Southfield Road Corridor study. That thing continues to steamroll ahead. They've had a couple input sessions already, and they keep going. So hopefully we continue to get more and more input from people as this goes through. We are getting pretty close. One of the projects that was part of the ARPA revenue replacement program was to do some upgrades over at the police department. John Myers has been working with Chief Waters. They've come up with some sketches. They're going to be looking to Hennessy Engineering to put together some final cost estimates and help us work up the architectural drawings that we can use to go out to bid. So that project's rolling along pretty good. Quick update, we are in December, which seems crazy, but we're only a few months away really from the full steam ahead of the budget process. So to that end, departments were required to submit their capital improvement requests last week. We're starting to go through those to compile a proper capital improvement plan. For the first year that I'm aware of, we intend to submit the capital improvement program to the Planning Commission as per the Planning Enabling Act. for their approval before we move forward with it. So it's exciting to kind of get that going earlier and be able to actually do it in the manner that is prescribed by the Act. Quick update, you guys may have noticed in the last in the last item that we paid a significant amount of money to limb walkers. There's a reason we've been spending a lot of money on the trees. That's because they're taking care of a heck of a lot of trees lately. The tree list, I spoke with them today, and they're hoping that the list they had, which was from, we'll call it mid to the end of September of this year, and everything previously, so all of the backlog, we should be caught up. They're hoping right around the first of the year. So they were planning to have it caught up by February. Looks like if weather holds up and things continue the way they are, they're going to finish that list a month ahead, and we'll be able to start on the list that would be from the end of September to present now. So hopefully our tree issues are behind us. So that's really exciting. Another note, so the DUA, the Downriver Utility Wastewater Authority, has been engaged in a rate study for the past year, actually, and they are getting pretty close to having it finalized. Basically, what the new rate methodology takes into account, historically, they've had that excess use formula, the old formula that came over from Wayne County. Unfortunately, that wasn't exactly accurate, and we all are aware of that. So what they've done is every sewer system in the authority that is a combined system. So this is a system that isn't separated like ours, where the storm water is directly discharged and the sanitary sewer water is sent off to the plant to be treated. Every combined system, this is where both the storm and sanitary are together, which considerably increases the amount of excess flow. All of them are now going to be combined, or they're going to have a flow meter to give actual rate of flow. They're also, so essentially that pool of what used to make up the excess flow is going to be divided by the separated systems. So it's a smaller pool, going to be divided differently. Super complex with what's really going on. The thing that really matters to everybody, our excess flow charges look to be about 2/3 of what they used to be. Overall, there's more of an emphasis on base rate, so the actual water usage that we report to them. So our rate, in comparison, our rate is looking to be about a 5% increase for next year, which, considering there are some that I think there's a 34.5% increase in there, there's some 14, we're kind of right in the middle there. Some communities are definitely going to go down because of the change in methodology. But so in the next little bit, that's really going to be coming out. And just a reminder, I sent all of you the invite to the DUA community luncheon, which is tomorrow. Quick note, tonight we had the audit presentation. I do want to make a note on that. We talked about increasing the general fund balance, which is fantastic. And honestly, we talked about how it was mostly due to the federal funding that came in the general fund. And this is true. I'd like to point out that we did, without that, we still would have added a little bit to fund balance. However, the thing that's kind of missing in all of this is we made very, very, very little capital investments in the general fund over the last year. So the age of our buildings, we haven't increased the useful life of them or anything. Some of this will be dealt with as we go through some of our ARPA projects, but I do want to kind of point that out. And then just a quick note, the DDA had submitted an application to the Detroit Institute of Arts for their Inside Out program. This is a really fun program where the DIA will work with communities to put out reproductions of famous pieces of art from the DIA. They were selected for it, so looking next summer, there should be some public art in the downtown area, which is really exciting. Lastly, touch on that leak detection equipment you guys just authorized. Not only is it going to be important to help us as we go through looking for the water loss, but when there is a water main break, one of the most time-consuming aspects to a water main break is trying to locate exactly where it's leaking. There's a lot of there's probing that goes on. There's listening for the water flow. They dig up, they miss a little bit. They're not quite where it is. Takes a lot of time to really locate it. Being able to locate it quicker, and as John mentioned during the presentation about that, within a couple feet of where it actually is, it's makes all the difference. It's going to help increase our speed in dealing with these water main breaks. So that's really important. So other than that, it's what's going on. It's been a pretty busy couple weeks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
James, you were talking about the tree trimming and everything that goes with that, but once you cut the tree down, then you have the stump that remains, and then you have the removal of that, and then putting the property back to the way that it was. You mentioned at the beginning of the year for the trees to be done. How about the stump removal and the rest that goes with that? Is that?
I would hope that they'll be able to have that tied up as well. I'd have to follow up though, just to double check.
Okay, if you could get that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
So, Councilman Higgins, go ahead.
I got a couple of questions. Number one, I understand somebody's interviewed now for the event coordination job. I want to know where we're at with that process.
So the interview took place. I don't know if, I don't know what's going on, honestly. I'll have to find out for you.
Okay. And then secondly, we got a report to the mayor and council on the recycling and how it's going. But I get a lot of people, a lot of public coming to me asking me same questions about that. So could you just tell the public a little bit about what it said in that report so that they can hear it too?
Yeah, so to be perfectly honest, to be completely blunt, as a community, we're not recycling, I think, enough. Our recycling, the tonnage, I'm trying to pull it up right now because it kind of caught me off guard. As a percentage of the total, like we'll call it just solid waste, the recycling is only making up about 10% of the solid waste that's being collected. Looking January of last year, or of this year, we collected, looks like 1,400 tons of trash, but yet we only collected 123 tons of recycling. That kind of trend seems to be consistent throughout. There's a weird spike in May where everything doubled. I'm not quite sure what was going on in May that we had double the solid waste, but for some reason we did. And this is something we could probably find a way to publish either on the website or somehow. Just it's just good information. On average, we're at about 1,200 to 1,400 tons of solid waste or of trash each month, and about 120 to 150 tons of recycling each month.
So it has cut into our regular trash tons some, but we're not where we want to be yet.
No, definitely not where we want to be yet.
Okay. I think we need to do some more promoting or decide what we want to do with this program.
Yeah.
For the chair.
That's all for tonight.
Councilwoman Tobin, I heard you first. Go ahead.
So James, I spoke with you last Friday. I had been at DPS that week, and I spoke with the director and the supervisors and the clerk, and you and I discussed some things that they had wanted to speak to me about. I relayed that information to you. Now, what I'm getting from the DPS and what I'm getting from you, none of it is coinciding. I suggested that there find a way to discuss with the DPS and you, so you guys get on the same page, because what I'm getting told from them and what I'm getting told from you, they don't add up, they don't match. I don't like to see that kind of thing happening. I know that we're going to have a meeting in January on DPS. I would like to see these issues addressed. I spoke to you about the TTOM contract and the overtime, the non-emergency overtime, and being told that you won't authorize non-emergency overtime when they request it, but you did have them go out to do the overtime for the alleys, which is great. But the roads and the other stuff that they've told me they requested and that it's been denied, and you say you haven't denied them anything, I need to get some kind of communication going so everybody is on the same page. And if they're telling me that they're requesting and you're telling me they're not, I think things would go a lot smoother. There's things that from the evaluation till January, some things should be done, and I know you're working on a safety plan and all that's kind of things, but I think that there's some general upkeeps in the yard that can be done that I've requested you speak to them about. Did you get a chance to speak with anybody today?
Not today, no.
No. Okay, these are things that I think are very important that we address now, especially with the ground freezing and safety issues down there. Because I was honest with you when I told you, when I go down there and I get out of my car, I am absolutely afraid to walk. And I mean, those are things that I think need to be brought up front and discussed with the director, with the supervisors. And if they're asking for things and they're not getting them, I need, why are they telling me that they're not getting them and you're telling me they're not asking? So if you can work with them before the meeting in January to get some answers to this, answers about the non-emergency overtime and also that TTOM contract. It seems to me that every other department in the city has a budget that they follow. They don't have to come and request to you to use that budget. Why does the DPS have to request to you to use their non-emergency overtime? I understand it's in the contract, but why, if the other departments don't have to do that? That's something else I want to address. I'm told about the phone calls and how many phone calls come in a day from city management, and told at DPS that that's so not even close to what they're addressing on a daily basis. These kind of things, please discuss with them. Come to some kind of working agreement so that you guys are on the same page and things are moving forward and we can see stuff happening. Please, can you do that before the DPS meeting?
Well, I will certainly talk with them.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, because they they're doing the best they can. I just think that these things should be addressed and we can move forward. Other than that, that's all I have.
Anything else for the city manager?
Through the chair, please.
All right, go ahead, ma'am.
One thing, James, is a statement. I think we need to show our public that GFL is actually doing what they're supposed to be doing before we get any more participation. We've proven what they're not doing. They need to show us what they are doing. On another note, has there been any discussion about the new animal shelter building at all? Or are we waiting till spring? What's going on with that?
So that's honestly, it's just one of those projects that there's only so much bandwidth at the moment. It is. We've got some preliminary drawings already. It's just a matter of trying to get to the next step with those.
Okay. Do we have a goal in mind of when we would like to get to it? Or I know there are constraints.
Right. I'd love to get to all of it yesterday, right? But I think once we get, because a big thing was trying to get the zoning done. Now that the RFP has been taken care of and is going out, we've got a little extra time to start diving into this. We may end up, the best time to really try and start trying to get bids and stuff out for construction is usually in the early spring, late winter. So that would be a good time to really be trying to get that out.
Okay, great. Thank you, James.
Councilman Ross, I think I heard your voice requesting
Yes, thank
before.
you, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
go ahead.
James, I just want to touch on GFL as well. You know, because we've been working on GFL issues. Is there something going on there that we don't know?
Not to my knowledge. You guys know everything I do about what's going on there.
Okay. I was just curious if they had maybe another wave of COVID hit them or something. You know, I'm like trying to.
It's possible, but not that I've had reported to us.
Okay. It just seems like the issues with them are continuous instead of stopping, you know, and being corrected. They just seem to continue. Are you keeping track? Are you keeping a log?
Yeah. We have a couple logs going, in fact.
Okay. So, I don't know. I know that, didn't you and Mayor sit down with them during the summer?
It was in, late summer, I think.
Maybe we should consider another one?
Possibly.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else for the city manager?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, this is for John Myers through James. John, I know you're on the thing. Could you give me a call tomorrow and answer my email I sent you a couple days ago? I appreciate it because I know John's listening. And James, I'm still waiting for the access to the yard and also to look at who has access to the yard. And I know there's been some issues going on lately, and I understand that, but I'd appreciate, Dave, if we can get both positions resolved. Okay? Other than that, Your Honor, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right, anything else for the city manager? All right, then we'll move on. We'll move on to department head report. We have the DPS director and Hennessy Engineers. John, are you back with us?
This is Jim. I don't know if John's on there yet or not. This is Jim Hollingsworth from Hennessy Engineers.
Well, hang on. I think he is downstairs. If you're not coming through, John.
Good evening, everyone.
There you go.
I had some major computer issues at my building, and we've been having computer issues basically all day with my assistant's computer. What I have is a partial list or a partial report. We haven't been able to get it from her computer. And then I had a computer issue earlier during the council meeting, plus I could not get back on even with my cell phone. So anyways, I'm at City Hall right now. For streets, we've put out a little over 102 tons, and this is a partial report. Potholes, we've done 156. Signs, we've got 27.
And gave several times over.
James, hear me? If you can mute whoever is not on council. Go ahead, John.
I don't, again, I've got a partial list of tree removals and tree trims, but it's only a partial report. I've got 33 removals, 110 trims. Water mains, we've had in November 11 main breaks, 1 hydrant repair. We have water service repairs, we've had 5 of those. The sanitary, we've cleaned 13 pump stations and the retention basin. We've done some monthly sanitary shooting of 16 different locations. And those are the monthlies that we do every month. The bi-monthlies, we've done 10 of those. We've had inline camera investigations, 14 of those in this partial report. We have shot over 8,000 lineal feet of sanitary sewer. We've shot 3,600 feet of storm sewer. And unfortunately, for those of you that will be going down Fort Park, a little bit north of London, you'll see that pavement is awfully wet. We had a back up there, and presently we have a Vector head that is stuck in a pipe there, which we'll have to try to get out tomorrow. That's why that storm sewer is not draining out. The pipe must have collapsed around our storm sewer head. As far as buildings and grounds, we've been at the band shell 14 times for issues, 12 times at City Hall, 10 times at the DPS building. The library, we've been out there 1 time, out in the parks 12 times, and the police department 8 times. Fleet maintenance, we've done 12 of those. DPS equipment, we've had 23 issues. Fire department 0, police department 17, and again, this is a partial list. I don't know if anybody recalls, but our compost pickup, or let's call it leave pickup, at the homes for the composting by GFL, our contract was supposed to end November 28th. The city extended by 1 week, which put it into December 4th. That has now exhausted. We are allowing homeowners to bring their compost bags to our yard at no charge, and we will collect them there, then get rid of them. And to date, we've had 134 water main breaks. And that's what I've got for everybody tonight as a partial report with what I was able to get from the computer.
John, is that the calendar year, the 135 water main breaks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Do you want to answer questions for John, or you want to go into Hennessy's and then do them all at the same time? John, what's your choice with that?
I think you should go through with the Hennessy report, and then any questions that you may have for them or myself will be happy to answer.
That works with me. We have James Huntworth. James, for Hennessy.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for the invite to this meeting. I'll just touch on some of the projects that we've been working on throughout the year. We have the 2020 sanitary sewer SRF sanitary sewer rehabilitation project. That was the one that was a low interest loan. And that one we did about 28,700 feet of sewer cleaning and televising with about 15,600 feet of new sanitary sewer lining, and we did 27 sectional repairs. We also, you may recall, John Kazoo sent out an email in regards to the North Shore sanitary sewer. That was a sewer that when they videotaped, we had some flooding issues in the basements, and so John's crew televised that sewer line, and we found that the sewer was submerged. So we brought in RJ&J on the emergency contract to install a new sewer in that area. As they were working through that, we got about 85 feet into it and realized that some of the sanitary sewer leaks from the homes were below the actual sewer, and we believe that's why the sewer was surcharged, and So what we're doing right now is we're working on a corrective action. We have a temporary repair in there for now, but we're gonna have to make a permanent repair. I believe that's probably why the sewer, again, was surcharged. The sewer leaks were below the house leaks were below the sewer. So we need to lower that sewer and make a new connection and move forward with that. We'll be bringing that to you in the future. This year you invested about $4,750,000 into your road and water infrastructure. That was through your Act 51 money as well as bond money, FAC, Federal Aid Committee money, and CDBG funds. In there we did River Drive from Emmons to Ford Boulevard. That was a federal aid project, which the city's share on that was only 18.15%. We did use CDBG money for the White Street, or for the Fair Street from White to Lincoln. We used road, or Act 51 and bond money for the water main and sewer reconstruction on Monty from Ethel to Chandler, and from Monty from Ford Boulevard to Lafayette, and on Payable from Applewood to Electric. Those projects are all getting very close to wrapping up and moving forward. We also had a road reconstruction in a joint effort with Lincoln Park Schools. That was Abbott and Howard Streets from Riverbank to Emmons. That project is completed, and we're just wrapping up the restoration on that. Our resurfacing project, we had 5 streets that we did on there. It was Euclid from Ford Park to Howard, O'Connor from Ford Park to Howard, Garfield from Dix to Rifle, and White Street from Porter to Abbott, Lincoln Street from Lafayette to Howard. Our sectioning program this year, we focused really on Porter Street from College to Outer Drive and Mayfair Court. The utility repair project, to date we're at about 145 utility repairs. This year we implemented the joint and crack sealing program to preserve our good roads and fair roads. We did about 84,000 feet of joint and crack sealing, again, to preserve our roads. We also had Lafayette water main project is nearing completion right now. You may recall the Lafayette water main is the one where we had a 16-inch water main that was under residential homes between the New York Street, along Lafayette basically, where it dead ends, but between New York Street and Emmons. So that water main is a transmission main for the city. That's been relocated now. All the connections are made. We're just working on all the pavement repair patches on that. We installed about 27,000 feet of new 16-inch transmission main, and added about 15 new valves to the city's system. We've also been working on some grant and low interest loans. This year we were approved for the state revolving loan again through Eagle. That was a $15.5 million low interest loan. We're currently working on that right now. The majority of that work will be with sewer cleaning and televising. We'll be doing some lining from what we found in the SAW grant from the 2019 videos and TV sewers. We did have the Emmons and Lincoln pump stations, but we're going to move those into the ARPA funds. We expect that we have our project plan due for the SRF loan in January of 2022. So we'll be submitting that, and we expect construction to begin in probably late 2022. We applied for some drinking water loans as well. We are real hopeful we're going to get what they call their DWAM grant. And this is a grant to where what this is to locate lead service leads. So all communities have service leads for their water, that they're not sure exactly what the material is, you know, due to some of the old records. So this grant will allow us to locate some of the service leads that are unknown. We're looking at about 375 service leads, and we have to locate them in 3 different locations. It's got to be inside the house, then we have to locate it on each side of the stop box. So one side of the stop box goes to the house, the other side of the stop box will go to the water main. So this grant will help us get money to do this at no cost to the city. The grant right now, we've resubmitted to them now, and the grant we're looking at is about $630,000 to go towards that. It'll also help. It'll go towards a asset management plan for the water system, and it'll also go to improving our GIS for the water system. So that was really nice to get that, or to feel that we're very much in the running for that. Originally, Eagle had the grant going out to, they wanted every unknown lead located. Now they're just doing a percentage on a random drawing. So we'll submit all of our leads to them, and there's a program that will randomly select what leads we need to locate, and then we'll be using the grant money to do that. So we were very happy to see that there's more money available to be able to do that, and we're hoping that we should do that in the near future as to whether we'll get that. We did also submit a grant for infrastructure for the water. Unfortunately, that one's for disadvantaged communities. They had so many applications that we just didn't fall within the funding range. And that grant that would have been covering about 30% of the construction costs towards the water mains. We did apply for a grant as well, and that was up to $2 million. So I just want to add that in there too. We also applied for a grant for lead service lead replacements. Again, there were so many requests that we did qualify for that grant. That was a $3 million grant. We're hoping that we're seeing now that they have more infrastructure money coming in. We're hoping that Eagle will re-offer those programs, and that'll hopefully put the city of Lincoln Park into the ability to be able to meet the funding for that. There's also a FEMA mitigation assistance